Something I always say is that, events are like a secret growth hack for business. And that's really because, you get this opportunity to go and put your brand in front of X amount of people at one time. So it's almost like, if you have that 3-minute pitch, can you do it right there and make it sell? So you get that direct connection, you get that direct marketing and those direct sales all in one place, all in one event. So when businesses start to focus on events, essentially you're doing, mass marketing. You're now being able to figure out different avenues to kind of grow and genuinely grow at that, because you're meeting with people face to face, so that interaction really makes a difference for people's brands.
You're listening to the Black to Business podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall.
Welcome back. So last week we discussed how to make a great brand impression. And one of the things that Rose mentioned in episode 40 is that business is ever evolving. So you have to be willing to roll with it. As a business owner, you're constantly figuring out ways to grow your business, but also ways you can create an experience for your consumers. So this week we wanted to give you some ideas on how to grow your business with live and or virtual events. So pre-COVID, in-person events was the main way that people connected. But then there was a shift to online events. Business owners who were used to doing things in person now had to pivot to online. So one thing that we love to do as humans is connect with others, whether it be with one another or with experts who can get us results in a specific area of our life. One way that we do this is by attending events. So although things are starting to open up again, we're sure that there will be people like myself who are anxious to connect with people again in person. But there are also those, again, like the introvert side of myself, who love the fact that we can connect with others and still have an experience in the comfort of our living spaces, like the best of both worlds. So I truly think that virtual events are here to stay, but we also want to prepare for the fact that in-person events will soon be back in effect. So we want to help you prepare for if you're currently considering doing either or virtual or in-person events. So to help us help you, we invited Ify Ifebi, founder of Vendorspace, which is a marketplace that connects vendors with event organizers and event opportunities. Ify has over 13 years of entertainment and event production experience. She has a passion for bringing people together for a purpose-driven impact. After college, I actually worked for Ify, so I can certainly vouch for her that she knows what she's talking about and events is her thing. She's a dear friend and she is truly passionate about what she does. So I wanted to share her with you to discuss how you can use events as a growth hack for your business. So let's get into it.
So Ify, welcome to the Black to Business podcast. I'm so excited to have you on the episode today to talk about events. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So before we get started, if you could just briefly share with our listeners your story, how you got where you are today, and what is it that you do in your business?
Oh, sure. Well, my name is Ify Ifebi. I'm the founder and CEO of Vendorspace, and we are a marketplace that connects vendors with event organizers and event opportunities. So essentially, we have a database full of different event services, talent, speaker, all the things that you need to create an event. And we also have a database of event opportunities and gigs. So when organizers are doing events, when they have vending opportunities, they come here, share their event, and vendors are able to easily find bookings. So how I got here is a very long story, but I'm going to try and shorten it. I used to manage artists when I was in college. I went to Howard University. Woo-hoo. HU. And that led me into doing events, because when I couldn't book them for a show, I would do events. So I would do these events on Canvas. I started, I guess, getting some notoriety with it. It was something I liked doing. It was something that was making me money. And then, it just kept evolving. I started going into different genres, indie hip hop, underground, whatever it is. Not whatever, but, just moving into different genres in regards to doing different events and concerts and festivals. But anyways, I tried my hand at a festival and it failed miserably, but it was because, and from what I learned, it was just us not being aware of all the different types of vendors we needed, especially because it was an outdoor event. It's not like going to a hall that already has a stage. So there were just so many moving components. And, I really just thought there could be an easier way to organize events that could really make it a lot simpler, a lot easier, by finding an easier way to connect with vendors. So that's how I got here today.
Awesome. And so if he didn't share, which I'll kind of share, how we met, because I've known Ify like a long time.
I was waiting for that. I wasn't sure when I was supposed to interject.
And I'm like, wait, so we've known each other for a long time. Ify really is. Yeah, she really inspired my journey with Black to Business. So I've known Ify since the beginning, when she started her other company, and I actually worked with Ify at that company. And I remember we both went to Howard, and she came into my entrepreneurship class just talking about her company. And I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. It's giving back to the community and it's hip hop. So I like it. So I reached out to Ify and I was like, can I take you to lunch? Because entrepreneurship, like that's what we were taught at Howard, like reach out, all of these things. I'm like, can I take you to lunch? And I reach out to Ify, we go to lunch and I'm like, I want to work with you. Can I intern? So I started as an intern for Ify. And then I actually worked with Ify at the graduation. So that's like, we go way back.
Yeah, way back, y'all. Monique was actually my very first intern. We had just started the program and she was the one that responded. We were so excited, but little did I know what it was going to transpire into this beautiful relationship. And I'm just so happy and so proud of you.
Yeah. She stuck with me forever because everything we work on, like I'm like, Ify, this is okay. We need to do this together. So yeah, but so that's behind how we met and why we're still connected today. So relationships do matter, but also like genuine connections,
exactly,
really do matter. So now moving on, because if you've been doing this for years and you really know your stuff when it comes to events and just vendors, and I know what you've been able to accomplish. So one of the things now I think we're facing is COVID is happening. But before we get into that, like, I really want to talk about a lot I'm seeing online also is like online events. But what do you think focusing on events does for people's businesses, and why does it matter?
Something I always say is that, events are like a secret growth hack for business. And that's really because, you get this opportunity to go and put your brand in front of X amount of people at one time. So it's almost like, if you have that 3-minute pitch, can you do it right there and make it sell? So you get that direct connection, you get that direct marketing and those direct sales all in one place, all in one event. So when businesses start to focus on events, essentially you're doing, mass marketing. You're now being able to figure out different avenues to kind of grow and genuinely grow at that, because you're meeting with people face to face, so that interaction really makes a difference for people's brands. There's so many times vendors or businesses go to, set up and share about their business at an event, and they come back with all these stories that they sold out, or, it led to other opportunities of working with someone, more partnerships. So there's a lot of value in being able to connect with someone in that kind of like real time arena where you guys are, kind of focused on this one event.
Definitely. And so, well, of course, nowadays, because before it was all about in-person events, and things are kind of changing now with COVID. So how do you feel like, one, how has this changed things? And then what are your projections in terms of events moving forward?
I mean, it flipped the events industry on its head. I don't think anyone was like prepared or, even knew what to do. But I definitely will say for events in general, organizers, just people that work with events, they've been very resilient and coming up with different ways to get creative and still figuring out, like you mentioned earlier, stuff like online events, hybrid events, still finding ways for people to connect and still having those opportunities for all the people involved. So that still means sponsorships are still available, vending opportunities, businesses can come in and advertise and do all these things are still available. So, I mean, COVID, it definitely put us in a tight spot, but I think it pushed us to be more creative and a lot more innovation is coming out of it. So, when we talk about the future of events, I definitely think virtual events is something that's ingrained, it's here to stay. It'll be something that people adapt more to because, it just really allowed you to meet with so many new people across the globe now by doing your one event that I don't think people would want to throw that, away. And then, I know hybrid is something that's new, but, just trying to figure out how you can still get the best of both worlds by doing, in-person and online events. So, yeah, that's the future, I think.
Now, what's hybrid?
Hybrid is a mix of in-person and online events. So it's almost like we're going to do a virtual event, but maybe, VIP or a select amount of people, 20, 30 people can actually come into the studio where we're recording. So now it's a hybrid event. Now we have to experience the people that are in here with us. And then, now we're also streaming what we're doing here to the online event that's online.
That's so neat because I think one of the things you mentioned is the creativity, but also it's interesting, like you said, the reach that these online events allow people to get, but I guess implementing hybrid. But one of the things I think about, especially with like a platform like Black to Business, one of the things for me was before COVID was trying to focus on online because I feel that there are a lot of people in these rural communities who don't have access to these events that are happening in major cities. So I think it gives them access to this and it kind of is more inclusive and they don't feel left out and they can still do what they need to do.
Exactly. And I mean, they've got to the point you can join it from your phone. So exactly what you said, so many more people have access, to your event now. And it becomes a little bit more convenient. A lot of people, you're saving less money. Like it has its perks or it has its ups and its downs, but definitely a lot more positive.
And one of the things you also mentioned, just going more on creativity. So I know much of our audience, some people have these product-based businesses, but much of our audience, they are professional services. So they offer, such professional services. So let's talk about like creative ways that they can look to have an event if they were not doing so before. What are your thoughts on that?
Sure. I mean, when it comes to that, I think the first thing, sometimes when we say event, it just always sounds intimidating. But like, if you just break it down, it's literally just a gathering, of a select amount of people. It could be 2 people, it could be 10 people, it could be 100 people. But, a gathering of people around this one particular subject or theme or so. So when you're a service-based business, let's say you're providing massages or something like that, it's not that you need to go and give 100 people massages, but you can teach, your expertise to people because that's a lot of things that's like a growing trend in online events with businesses now. They're, taking what they know, taking the root of their business, and now they're doing workshops, they're doing tutorials, they're doing events for their brand that's not only giving them money, but, now it's also introducing people to them and they're booking more business and other opportunities afterwards. So it's really thinking about definitely what your goal is in the first place, and then understand that, your event could also be hosted on like Instagram Live. It can be as simple as that. So you have all the power right now, especially with everybody sitting at home, to do an event of your own that can really, boost your brand.
Yes, take advantage of people being at home. Yes. And one of the things is also, I feel like it's just so much I want to cover in this because this is such a big thing before, but also now is the fact that
standing out and, marketing and like tips on that, so that I feel like there's a lot going on online, but also so that people don't get overwhelmed and know that they can go to your brand and they're loyal to your brand. So what is your advice on some tips on how to stand out? Especially for those who are not already doing events or those who are doing them on a smaller level?
I think honestly, like the best tip to standing out is being yourself. Like, I don't want to be cliche or anything, but it's like, that's the single best way to do it. So when you want to stand out, you're trying to, stand out from the rest and all that. And sometimes we get too engulfed in what that means. And maybe you kind of start becoming the same. But if you really just master, your true self, master the true voice of your brand, I think from them, it's really showing how quirky or how, business minded or whatever those key assets and features are. That's going to be the best way to stand out, and you'll start developing your own audience and your own loyalty and people, following you and wanting to do anything that you do because they know who you really are business-wise.
Yes, because that was going to be my next question, is deciding your focus area of an event. Do you want to add any more on that? Because I know you talk about the area of expertise, but I guess deciding on what focus area of an event.
For a business?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I always say, like, honestly, really, the first thing you always got to make sure you do is know what your event purpose is. So why are you holding this event? You have the power to bring 20, 30, whatever amount of people again together. So what do you want them to leave with? And from there, I think you just reverse engineer it. So, people recently, we've been working with people that have product launches and book launches. So their goal is to get people to buy, 50 books while they're there. So if that's the case, now let's figure out what kind of event that we're going to do. We're going to do a book signing, or, we're going to do a mini release party, launch party, something of that nature, that allows you to gather them there. And I think that's how you can start deciding what exactly, what is that experience? What will lead them to actually want to buy the book? Things like that. So that's what I mean by reverse engineering. But, when you can establish those two first, then I think you can start looking at all the different opportunities you have to decide what kind of event you want to do.
That's so interesting. You mentioned that you help businesses, like if they want to focus on selling a book. I was just talking to someone that sells perfumes, and they said that they had this major launch event, and it was so nice. Like, they had people come out, the launch party for their perfume. And they said that one mistake they made was not actually letting people know that the perfumes were for sale. Oh. And they said that the perfumes were like located in this space that you could have passed it. Mm-hmm. So, they missed money, but the major purpose of the event. So that's why it's important to have an expert like Ify in Vendorspace.
Yes, that is always, sometimes, like you said, just missed opportunities. There's small little things that we always forget. I've seen that done so many times. I think I did that in my early days. But when you have people there in front of you, it's just as much as you having your whole following in one place. Like, what do you want to tell them? What can you do? So definitely taking advantage of all the different areas that you can communicate a message to them. Buy perfume here, or come follow me here, come visit me here, or put your email here, or whatever you can do to make sure they know it was done by you and what you want them to do while they're there.
At least, even if you have to just get on the mic every 10 minutes, it might be annoying, but whatever.
That's like the very least, yes. Whatever you have on the hour, every hour. You need to make
perfume in the back, y'all. Don't forget.
So just remember.
Yes.
Don't let all that work go in vain,
Right. And of course, the money and investment that you put in up front.
Exactly.
So don't. And that's another thing we have to talk about in general, is the fact that I feel that some people, even I was listening to a popular person that's also in the event space, but almost like online workshops. And one of the things they mentioned, and this is just my own opinion, is that when they see people if you're wanting to do an online webinar, one of the things that we get scared of is selling. And they said when it comes to the pitch part of making a sale or making your offer for your upsell, that people like rush through this part. And it's so important to spend time on why you should buy it. Take your time. But I feel that people are just very scared to sell sometimes. So take your time when you're pitching.
Yeah, take your time. But definitely, that's one of those things you just got to do it afraid, because you never know the response you'll get. You never know. You just never know what it will lead to. So don't miss the opportunity because you didn't want to take the shot, but just try it anyways. And, at least put it out there to see what will happen.
Yes. So let's talk about implementing events in your model, your business model. So what are some of the first steps that business owners should take when they're deciding to host an event, whether it be planning or the key people that they need to have in place?
So the first step definitely, well, let's go back. The first step is definitely, why are you doing your event? Knowing what your purpose and strategy is, that will lead to everything else. From there, outlining your budget, knowing, how much money you do or don't have, whether you need to go and get sponsors or what you can do to raise some funds. And then just mapping it out, on a whole as a year. Are you going to repeat this? Is it going to be once, in the year? Is it going to be a few times? So you can now build a whole event, campaign marketing strategy around this series of events. So, just breaking it down into pieces. I think that's all. Just break it into small, digestible pieces, and any event is possible.
Yes. And what about people who have a small team? Like, can they do it alone? Do they need to have an assistant, or what steps do you need to, what level do you feel that you need to bring someone else in? But I think a lot of times these events are, especially if you're starting out, possible with one person. Do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely possible. I think it just depends on how ambitious you want to be with your event. But even if there's a lot of tools that people can, use, and not only because, I founded Vendorspace, but, we're definitely one in regards to, we can assist you with finding the different vendors and pieces you need. And we have different assist programs, but there are also other sites, similar to us that at least, you can connect with some different vendors. You can, get some inspiration. You can go to a lot of these event ticketing sites, and just at least be able to draw from things that you're seeing. So I think, doing your research, number one, is really key, but there are a lot of tools available nowadays. I mean, all the way down to like creating a online sponsorship deck. There's people like VetDeck, SponseEasy. So instead of you taking your time to build it, they now have tools that allow you to get these things done a lot faster. So really looking at, what's available for you. As a team of one, like you said, you can really knock out a whole event.
Yeah, so let's backtrack a little bit, because my next question is about sponsorship and partnerships. You mentioned two platforms. You said SponseEasy and VetDeck.
Yeah. Yep. So SponseEasy, they're an online platform that it's almost like you can create your sponsorship deck into like a one-page website. So now you're just sending people a link, but it highlights all your most important information. So, the demographics, the data about any past events or your social reach, all the most important information is now put into this one little landing page, and you're able to just use that to, reach out to people. And it's really easy, especially if building sponsorship decks can definitely be a little bit of a pain or a little bit tedious. So, being able to at least just highlight everything in one place, it also makes it easier to send. So you're not sending this big bulk, 10-page outline that is going to people's junk folders and all that. So it definitely has good perks. And VetDeck is actually a friend of mine, a good friend that I know. A Black-owned company. And she's like the sponsorship, expert herself. So she really just brought her network in, and she allows you to do the same thing where they have deck templates, kind of like how you use on Canva, that you can, plop your information into. And then she has kind of like a marketplace type of matchmaking thing where if it fits some of the sponsors in their network, they'll share it with them and try to get you connected. But even if, they literally are vetting your deck, so you can send it to them and, they kind of refine it and make sure it's ready to give to your sponsors.
I like that. I'm definitely going to include all of these resources in the show notes.
Yes.
And also just a little bit more on sponsorships and partnerships. I know one of the things, like you said, it can be tedious and sometimes it can be intimidating to even start the process. And I guess know if you're ready for a sponsor, because I think sometimes people feel that they're not and they actually are, or sometimes it's the opposite. You feel like you are, but you're really not. So do you think that it's like a certain level that you have to be? And then also, how can people go about, seeking those sponsorships?
No, I don't think it's a certain level. I think you really just have to be realistic about, your goal in terms of how much money you actually need, and then understand the resources you have available. So, do you know anybody already with this? How much startup funding, so to speak, do you already have for this? But then also, understand that you can monetize your event in different ways. So where sponsorship may seem daunting, speaking to your speakers and vendors and giving them advertising opportunities or, little boost up promotional places is also another stream of sponsorship and revenue that can be used. And now you're selling vendor opportunities. That's essentially what those are. So that's what I mean by when you get realistic with your goal. It's like, do you want to go after and get one $5,000 sponsor, or can you break down this $5,000 that you need into 10 vendor booths, to 5 commercials, 2 little intros, 2 speaker opportunities, so other things that may seem a little bit more attainable and more easier to catch. So it really just depends on what you're trying to do and what you believe you can do.
Yes. And even speaking on, you kind of mentioned what I was going to go into next is monetize. But before we get into that, the free versus the paid events, what are your thoughts on those?
Man, that's in terms of whether you should be doing it.
Yes.
Well, it's an interesting subject because especially with all these virtual online events, I was talking about the other day, a lot of people are doing free and you don't necessarily have to, I think that's where it comes down to, your experience. What are you giving people that, gives it value that they would pay for it? So I really think it's how much you want to invest in your event, because you definitely have the right. You definitely can, charge for a regular event the same way you've always done, and I've seen people charge $300 tickets just like we're going to, South by Southwest or some festival or something. And people do, so, but it really came down to the value of what you provided. So don't cheat people out of it. I think that's just the key, don't put a dollar amount, but you're not giving me anything in exchange for it. So it really just comes down to, the experience you're providing. But free also has its benefits, so again, I think it's more so what are you trying to achieve? Because even with free, we've done a lot of free workshops this year and ended up last year. And, we've met so many more people, we've gotten more contacts, more leads just by opening our doors and allowing to, reach out to people free of charge. So what are you trying to accomplish?
Yes, I agree, both free and paid. I also believe that, recently I've been hearing this thing, if you pay attention.
Exactly.
And yeah, I think that, one of the things, especially, yeah, it's real, because it's like one of the things, especially to our audience, we want to really drill down is, like you said, it's like, what kind of experience are you going to give? But you want to give a quality experience, whether it's free or paid. But it's also, you do want to run a business and make sure that you're, like you said, getting those leads, but also making those into paid clients, or they can stay and making some money, but also just provide value on either end. But people, when they pay attention, they show up. Because a lot of these platforms, you have a certain amount of people that you pay on these online platforms. And if you don't have that number, you've bought a subscription to something that they don't show up.
No, that's true. That's true. But that's why, to your point, or what we're just saying now, understanding how you can monetize your event beyond just tickets is really important. So knowing the other strings, because you don't want to depend on just your door. That's basically what we're saying. You don't want to depend on just the tickets. Can you make that money elsewhere? So tickets are just a bonus, or, tickets are just the icing on top because you met your revenue goals from, speakers or commercials or whatever brand opportunities we come up with.
Yes, I like that. You don't want to depend on your door.
Yeah,
I like that. So, and then even going into like the ways of monetizing. So I know you mentioned the speakers, commercials, brand partnerships, and sponsorships. So are there any other ways that people can look to monetize these events?
Speakers. I think that's the bulk of it, and then just the extent of your vending. And when I say extent, in person, people. Brand activations, for those that aren't familiar, when you used to go to events and maybe Red Bull has this really cool, pimped out, whatever, balloon area or something, that's a brand activation. That's something that they paid for. They put and engage in activities so they can connect with different people. So it's really just the extent of what can you do with the vendor or offer them that they can, put their brand on spotlight. But I think you hit, that's really much the base of it in terms of different ways to monetize.
Okay. And another question I have is, how do you feel that, what is the power of events? If you know of like any success stories of businesses who weren't necessarily implementing events, and how that has changed their businesses?
Oh, yes. That is such a good question. I was just, don't quote me on the name. I'm not going to mention the name so I don't mess it up. But there's this French toast business in Philly that I was just looking at. Another Black-owned, women-owned company. But it was a mother-daughter thing. They were making French toast. And what they did, they started going to markets in their area, like these local Saturday markets where you could come and buy different things from businesses. And they saw the growth of it for them. And they got to a point where they were doing up to I think they said 120 of them in a year. And that, that skyrocketed their business so much that now, they have shops, they have like retail places, they're, selling in big stores and big locations. So the power of events can really transform your business. Even if you just look at it as each event as an opportunity to gain 10 more people or, to reach 100 more people. And that's literally, there's so many stories like them and like that. But, that's literally just one of how they use it to allow it to float them into like commercial opportunities or, getting into different places now.
Yeah. And I know we're in a time now where things are kind of like locked down, but like we kind of said before, like taking advantage of the fact that people are online. But even when I feel like when outside really opens, like people are going to be like flooding these places. So take advantage of, having a plan when outside opens so that you can, be there front and center. Yeah. Because that's also
exactly. Find little ways to engage with them now. Remind them that the same thing you said, when doors open, you can come and visit us here or visit us here. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of things is, I feel like too, is people want to touch certain things. So when you're like French toast, I want to taste it before I buy it online. Or if I'm not able to, or certain things, you want to have it in person. So yeah, having a plan in place for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what advice do you have for business owners who feel like I don't have the bandwidth to implement this right now?
Everyone always feels like that. I think you just need to refine your strategy. I think, you definitely have enough. You have all that you need to do it. And I think it's just your approach to it. So, don't look at it as so daunting. Just figure out ways and, what delegation, what do you need in order to get it done? Because there's a way to get it done. And it's to your benefit, it's think of all the benefits that come from it. It's to your benefit if you can figure out, even if you can only do one this year, how you can do one of your own brand events or 10 event, figure out another way and vend that event.
And before we get into, how can Vendorspace, because I'm sure we've gotten a lot and people are like, okay, so how can you help me? One of the things I want to ask you is, because you started in the event space, even before Vendorspace, and what you're doing now, how do you feel like this has transformed you, like just events, whether it be live or virtual, connecting with people, has transformed you personally as well as your business?
How has it transformed me? I think it's definitely made me more open-minded, to just the different types of people you're able to meet, going back to when you're doing virtual and now you're open to a global market. So where we were doing small events that were just in Atlanta, for only people that can come here. And now we're meeting people from Toronto and China and people that are just joining in. So, open-minded into, learning about the different ways, people are doing business, doing their events. And that's really just giving me a broader approach, a unique look on how we can approach events to make them more, relatable from people from anywhere around the world.
Amazing. So I heard the actual, like the dropping of the China. So we are international. And so of course, going into, you have all of this experience. So I'm pretty sure people are wondering, like, what are some of the ways that Vendorspace helps businesses, and what would it be like if I was a company that was interested in working with you? What services could?
Yeah, sure. So one of the main ways, especially for product and service-based businesses, is simply the fact that you get to look for different event opportunities. So you literally, by joining us, and it's free to join, by the way. So it's free to join Vendorspace. All you do is create a profile, just as much as you go to any other website, create a profile, tell us about your business, blah, blah, blah. But, you now get notifications and you get all these different alerts and announcements of event opportunities. So we have different organizers, that people that do conferences, people that do markets, people that do an array of different events, where, they're usually looking for specific types of vendors and businesses to work with. So just by being a part, you now have access to this, and people are usually looking for you, where you may get an alert like, hey, this event wants, women-owned businesses, and here are all the details. Or you can now also reach out and see the different things that are coming up in your area near you, and, see if it's something that you'd like to do. Maybe you like all 10 of these events. Now you have a calendar of your own of 10 upcoming events that you're going to work with, and, put your brand here or vend at.
Amazing. So honestly, there is no reason to not get started, especially if this is something you're considering. You have the resources like Vendorspace to help. So that's amazing. And I'm a part of like the newsletter, the actual social media things that they have going on. So it's a lot of, you all give a lot of information also for free.
Yeah, thanks. You guys are absorbing it.
Yes. It's like, okay, so this is all I need. And why not work with them? But that's amazing. And also, what are your favorite tools that are resources that you've used to help you in your entrepreneurial journey?
So one of my favorite tools right now is definitely Asana. I think I've tried a lot of like project management apps, but I really like, just the fluidity of Asana. It really helps, my team in terms of not only keeping track of stuff, but just seeing our progress and, just keeping everything organized in one place. So I think any type of organizer app is really efficient. Definitely I've used something at some point, for all the different businesses, but that's a favorite tool. And that's my favorite right now. And Slack is my other favorite tool. If you haven't used Slack, it's just, like business group chat, I guess, business group texting. But it's another easier way to communicate with the team. And it makes it a lot easier, to send things, to review. And it's just a little chat app, for us to connect with each other. Those are the two biggest ones that are my favorite right now. Oh, and then I will say, like all of Google Suite, all of I have the business, account, whatever, and I absolutely love them for integrating everything and making my life so much easier.
Yes, shout out to Google Suite. They really do. They really take over everything. I'm like, I'm sick of how much I use this because it's like everything is. Even when I use different platforms, it's like are you connected to Google Suite? That makes life.
I'm not going to hate on them. I am going to congratulate.
Right, because it makes life easier.
They definitely are everywhere. They have done their job. Okay.
Yes, and I haven't gotten into Slack. I mean, I have a Slack account, but we don't use it as much. But I feel like a lot of people are saying like use Slack, so I think this is a sign. But
you can try it. I think if you need it for people, it's definitely it's an easier way because you already know how it is with group text. Yes. Different phones, so you avoid all these things.
Yes, I think that's the thing too, because I hate like group messages. Everything I'm in, I'm on mute. I'm like, I can't. It's my anxiety.
Avoid doing that. I hope Slack is listening to me promote them.
Slack, give us that sponsorship. So yes. So Ify, this has been amazing, and I'm pretty sure people wanted to know how can they connect with you. So, one last question. Any book recommendations?
Any book recommendations? I ain't gonna lie. I haven't read.
We like realness.
Yeah. But The one that I do like, there's one on my mind. The one that I can't remember the full name. There's one that's called The Third Wave, and it's like an entrepreneur's vision of the future. And then Simon Sinek, The Dip. There you go. And that's the other one, Simon.
Oh, I've heard of The Dip. I think I have. What is he? Is he the same person that wrote Leader Seat Last? I think he is.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I have to check.
I love how he writes. So he's always a favorite of mine.
Yes. Okay. And that's a real answer. Like some people, it's like, I mean, I like to read a lot, but sometimes even if it's just 10 pages a day, but there are times like, okay, I'm like, I'm going to read this book this month and it'll be like 2 months later. But sometimes you are just busy implementing. And
right.
That's what happens.
Even if you can just at least do it once, if it's once a year, once a quarter, definitely try to keep learning or explaining it.
Yeah. So how can people connect with you and how can we support what you're doing?
You can connect with me, learn more about us at vendorspace.co. You can get all the details there, join there for free. Definitely follow us, stay up to date. We have a lot of workshops and a lot of cool and unique, interesting events coming up. And our handle across all social media is at Join Vendorspace. And me personally, I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me, Ify Ifebi, Ify Ifebi.
Awesome. And we can honestly go on. This felt like a conversation between two friends. I mean, because we know each other so.
We're going to do part 2.
Yeah, we have to do a part 2 because. So for everybody out there listening, we go way back. So this is all fun for us to share. And Ify, like I said, she's been doing this for years. So I wanted her to come on the podcast because I know she knows her stuff. And really, I think it's a great thing for people to start exploring like the event space if you haven't already. But like she mentioned before, like the quality of your events and your expectations for what you want people to get out of it is key. So I learned a lot. I hope you did too. And Ify, we really appreciate you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
The thing I love most about speaking with guests like Ify is that not only does she have so many years of just knowledge and experience in the industry, but it's also the fact that she's able to break it down so that it seems achievable. And that's very intentional on why we do these podcasts, because we want you to think that it is possible, because it is. And I love the fact that she shared her personal experience on what events has done for her business and the fact that it's allowed her to expand her connections globally. And this is truly what I want us as Black entrepreneurs and business owners to understand, is that we really have to think big. Our mission at Black to Business is to help Black entrepreneurs and business owners to become globally competitive. So when you're thinking about introducing something in your business, think about the power of your network and how powerful you want your business to be. So let's continue to think big and let's continue to do the work, family. Until next time.